Good evening and welcome to our live national broadcast. I'm Amanda Nichols with Our Revolution, and tonight we're teaming up with CWA, SEIU, and Fight for 15 in a Union for a special call to build worker power. This week, we suffered the loss of Roe v. Wade, and we're going to turn that pain into action. Our rights are under attack from every direction, it seems, and we're gathered here this evening to do the work of organizing our collective power against these far-right and corporate forces trying to dismantle our democracy. If you're ready to be part of this work and fight back, get engaged with some of the actions we'll be dropping in the chat tonight. If you're in Zoom, you can kick things off by telling us your name and where you're from in the chat. Also in the chat, you'll see links to share this live stream out to your Facebook and Twitter, help build this call, show our solidarity with working people. All right, let's see who we have joining in Zoom tonight. We've got Diane in Cleveland. We've got David Legrand, Our Revolution, Howard County, Maryland. Awesome. Joe from Princeton, Idaho. Steve Carrillo in Albany, California. Genevieve in Dothan, Alabama. Someone from Latrobe, PA. Stan from Philly, not too far from me. All right. For folks who are watching live on social media, please transfer into the Zoom with us. We're dropping the link to join the Zoom and our social media streams right now. That's ourrev.us/Zoom. Again, my name is Amanda, and you're tuning into our special live organizing call to build worker power. Across the nation, workers are rising up to fight for their rights, but the rules are literally rigged against them. That's why Our Revolution's grassroots membership is partnering with labor and lawmakers to fight for worker rights at both the state and federal levels. In California, we're teaming up with SEIU and the Fight for 15 in a Union to pass AB 257. That's the Fast Recovery Act, transformative labor legislation that will give over 500,000 fast food workers in the state collective power to raise pay and workplace standards. Two fast food worker activists, Mariah Foster and Ingrid Vilorio, are here to talk about why this bill is critical, not just for low-wage workers in California, but in states across the country. We're also teaming up with CWA to fight for worker rights at the federal level through executive action. Tanya Jackson, a federal contract worker from Mississippi who helps Americans get their healthcare benefits as a call center worker, is here to talk about how she's fighting to get her own healthcare and union rights. Last but not least, we'll be joined by U.S. Rep. Khanna to talk about the importance of our strategy to help workers organize. We'll also give you some concrete actions you can take to help grow the labor movement and empower workers in this critical moment. The chat is very active. Keep telling us where you're tuning in from and why you're excited about tonight's call to build worker power. We've got Bruce J. from Coral Springs, Florida. Tommy, another guy from Philly. Cindy from Latrobe, a lot of people from PA tonight. Encino, California, Leah Hertzberg. Bob from Borrego Springs, California. Pete in Edinburgh, PA. These are my stomping grounds. All right, very great. Let's see. We are recruiting volunteers right now to make calls for Our Revolution phone bank force. We're going to be dropping that link in the chat right now. So sign up to help us call folks around the country, mobilize them into action on our issue campaigns, and to vote for progressives against corporate Dems and bought-off politicians up and down the ballot. We've made 500,000 calls in just the past few months, and we're counting on our grassroots army to help fight back against far-right authoritarians, the corporate bosses, and the big money interests corrupting our democracy. Again, that link is in the chat. So we've got over 3,000 people on the phones right now, and before we get started, we'd love for folks to use this chance to hop into Zoom. Go to ourrev.us/Zoom. Can read a few more names from the chat. We got some folks from Texas. We've got Jersey in the house. We have Barry from Toledo, Ohio. We've got Harpreet Chima from Stockton, California. Welcome, everybody. Joel Block from Orange County, California. Ruth in Cedar Falls, Iowa. So glad to see so many folks joining in. Janet from New Mexico. Great. Okay, so real quick before we start, let's drop in the Zoom chat the latest edition of the Revolution Report which is written by yours truly. Definitely click that link. Read all the news from this week from the front lines of the political revolution. Tonight, you'll be amped up after the call. Get a good read in and then share it to get people active in this fight. That's rrev.us/Rev Report 2022. And with that, I think we're just about ready to bring in our host for the evening. His name is Aaron Chappell, and he's the political director here at Our Revolution. Aaron, I'm passing it over to you.
Thank you, Amanda. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to our live Monday night Organize to Win call. Let's get things started now. 8:31 here on the East Coast. My name is Aaron Chappell. I'm the political director here at Our Revolution, as Amanda said, and I'll be your host this evening. So Our Rev is the largest grassroots-funded progressive political action group in America. We represent the Bernie wing of the Democratic Party, and we're on a mission to build real working class power to take on the corporate class. Right now, we've got hundreds of Our Revolution members joining us in the Zoom, lots of folks from California, especially we're seeing tonight, thousands more tuning in online on social media channels, on our phone, by phone, on our teletown hall service. And we welcome everybody. Thanks so much for your work to make the political revolution a reality. We hope folks who are on the phones or on other channels would join us over here in Zoom. We love the way we can interact, chat with each other. You just have to go to ourrev.us/Zoom, and you can jump over here at any point. So come on in. Tonight's topic is building workers' power. But before we get to that, we got to take a minute to discuss the political moment that we're in here in the United States. Last week, a radical right-wing Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade, undermining 50 years of legal precedent that protects the fundamental right to privacy for all Americans. The night before, the court issued an extreme decision on the Second Amendment, rolling back gun control legislation. And let's be clear, what's going on is not about law, it's about power. Conservatives and their corporate benefactors organized for over half a century to get to this point. They took over the Republican Party, they infiltrated the federal judiciary and all branches of government to create a powerful counter-majoritarian movement that does not respect the rule of law or even free and fair elections, as we're seeing in the January 6th hearings, right? Sadly, inaction by corporate Democrats to codify Roe, to enact gun reform, or do anything else when they've had super majorities over the decades shows exactly why we need to organize our progressive movement with a relentless drive to build power and fight with ever greater tenacity than the right wing does. Across the nation, workers are rising up to fight for their rights, but the rules are rigged against them. That's why Our Revolution's grassroots membership is focused on building worker power at both the state and federal levels. So in California, we're teaming up with SEIU and the Fight for 15 to pass Assembly Bill 257, the Fast Recovery Act. This is a transformative labor bill that will give more than 500,000 fast food workers in the state of California the collective power to raise pay and benefits in their industry. We've got with us tonight two fast food worker activists, Mariah Foster and Ingrid Vilorio, who are here to talk about why this bill is critical, not just for low-wage workers in California, but throughout the country. We're also teaming up with the Communication Workers of America, CWA, to fight for worker rights at the federal level through executive action. Tanya Jackson, she's a federal contract worker in Mississippi who helps Americans get their healthcare benefits as a call center worker. She's here to talk about how she's fighting to get her own healthcare by fighting for a union. And last but not least, we'll be joined by U.S. Representative Khanna, who's going to talk about the importance of our strategy to help workers organize so that we win. We also give you our grassroots members, we'll give you, our grassroots members, concrete actions you can take to keep the growing momentum of the labor movement going. This is going to be a great call tonight, and we welcome you all here. So worker power is fundamental to an enduring and powerful progressive movement. Unions are one of the most powerful tools of democracy. America grew the world's largest middle class and passed our most transformative policies like Social Security, Medicare, civil rights, when unions were strongest and had the ability to pressure political leaders. FDR's New Deal and LBJ's Great Society required organized worker power to counter corporate control. That's how we got policy for the people. But over the past half century, the right wing waged a war on worker rights. They understood that power. And today, union membership sits at an all-time low. Without that organized worker power, all of the things we want, from Medicare for all to the Green New Deal, are held hostage by corporate control. The good news is that after decades of union busting, workers are rising up once more. We see this around the country. I'm sure you've all heard. Amazon, Starbucks, Apple workers are organizing. We've got gridlock in Washington blocking passage of federal labor law reform like the PRO Act, and the rules are still rigged against these workers. That's why we need to focus also on state level action to win innovative, game-changing legislation that can immediately address the issues workers are facing and give them a real seat at the table. So this summer, California fast food workers are on the brink of doing just that by passing AB 257. This is a first in the nation sectoral standards bill that can transform the low-wage, low-road fast food industry and improve the lives of over 500,000 workers in California. The bill passed the state assembly back in January, but even in a blue trifecta like California, it's a real battle to get it through the state Senate later this summer and then to get it to Gavin Newsom's desk for a signature. But we've got a path forward. If you're in California, sign our petition calling the state Senate to pass Assembly Bill 257. It's called the Fast Recovery Act. We're dropping right now a link in the chat to that petition. So get that, sign it, send it around. Workers must have a say in setting their own workplace standards, and major employers must be held accountable. This is a fundamental tenet of democracy. And your voice, you can add your voice to grow our collective impact by signing that petition right now. The California Senate's having a hearing tomorrow, and they need to hear from you, Californians. So with that, our first speaker, Mariah Foster, works at Burger King in Sacramento. Mariah, I'm a former colleague, worked at Burger King in Indianapolis. Mariah is a young person who's been striking for 15 and a union with her coworkers and is one of the leaders for worker justice in Sacramento. Remember, California was the first state to win $15 an hour 6 years ago, but now they're pressing forward for more and for unions. So Mariah, welcome to the call. Are you with us?
Yes, thank you so much for having me.
Awesome. So tell us a little bit about why you got involved in this movement and what this bill would do for you.
So in my personal experience, working at Burger King here in Sacramento, we were dealing with extreme heat conditions, unsafe work environment, and workplace retaliation. And that's when I got in contact with Fight for 15's leaders, and they showed me how I could take action against my employers, how I could stand up for my rights in the workplace. And so that's kind of how I got introduced to all of this. And then working with them, I found out that this is not an experience unique to myself. These corporations and industries, they take advantage of their employees all across the state, and all across all of America.
And so tell us a little bit about what you guys are fighting for now in the State House. What would this bill do to change those situations, those circumstances here?
Well, these corporations, they exploit their power and take advantage of the fact that a large portion of their employees are not only young people, but also minority groups, people of color. And they've been doing this for a very long time. They exploit us to their advantage. They put profits before the people, before their employees. These are a lot of young people just getting introduced to the workforce. And so they're not all aware of their rights in the workplace. They're not aware of how they can mobilize to defend their rights in the workplace. And there are those who've been informed about their workplace rights, but are afraid to speak up in fear of retaliation from their employers and from the corporations that they work for. And so I feel like that's why AB 257 is so important, because it helps level the playing ground, and it gives us employees that too often don't have a say in the rules that affect us the most, in our workplaces. It gives us a chance to speak up for ourselves. Right now, we go on strikes and we hold rallies to be heard and to push towards progress. It's our way of having a say in the workplace. And so AB 257 gives us a leg up in that process, where we have a share in the power and the influence that only the elite CEOs and their lobbyists have in the standards that impact us the most. And this is not a fight, just for us. This is something everybody can contribute to with their voices and their votes.
Yeah, I can, I wish this had been going on when I was working at your company as well.
Right.
This is an amazing movement. You've really accomplished a lot, but there is a difference, as you're saying, from, shouting outside to having a seat at the table and actually getting to negotiate, right?
Definitely.
That is the critical distinction. That is when you get workplace democracy, when you actually are part of the process, right? Companies have to negotiate.
Right.
So for folks who are listening, if they have friends, if they're in this industry, if they're working in the industry, how else can you get involved in this movement and organize in your workplace?
How others can get involved, like I said before, offering your voice in this, just sharing it with everybody offering your vote. The vote's really important to electing officials who will support what the people need, and also getting the support for the bills and the changes that we need to help us move forward in progression.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much for being with us here tonight, Mariah. Again, we will keep dropping the link to the petition. Anybody in California, please make your voice heard. As we said, there'll be a hearing tomorrow in the state Senate on this bill. Sign our petition and spread the word. And next, I'm going to bring on my colleague, Paco Fabian, to introduce our next guest. Paco.
Thanks, Aaron. Hi, everybody. I'm Paco Fabian. I do comms and campaign work here at Our Revolution. And I'm super excited to bring on our next guest, Ingrid Vilorio. She's a Jack-in-the-Box worker in the Castro Valley. And Ingrid is going to speak to us in Spanish, and I'm going to do my best not to totally ruin what she's going to say to us today. So let me welcome Ingrid. And my first question to her is going to be what the problem is with the fast food industry. So Ingrid, bienvenida. Muchas gracias por estar aquí con nosotros hoy. Y cuéntame un poquito para ti, ¿cuál es el problema o cuáles son los problemas que tiene la industria de la comida rápida?
Pues voy a hablar un poquito de los más importantes este día, y esos son pues que tenemos ahorita robos de salario, robos de días de enfermedad, tenemos robos de break, estamos trabajando en condiciones deplorables dentro de nuestras tiendas, gritos, discriminación, malos tratos.
So Ingrid says, look, the problem with the fast food industry currently is that the workers in the fast food industry are suffering things like wage theft, right? The fact that we don't have health care, no health insurance, we're suffering discrimination. We're working in deplorable conditions. It's too hot. We're working under abuse. And there's several internal problems that each store has because of those conditions that we're working in.
Y algo bien importante, que esto no es nuevo. Esto tiene años y años de estar sucediendo, pero hay leyes que están protegiendo al trabajador, pero lastimosamente en la industria de comida rápida no se están aplicando. Y es por eso que lastimosamente las corporaciones no quieren que exista la AB 257.
And the conditions I described earlier, they're nothing new, right? It's been happening for years and years now. And there are laws in place to protect workers in California and around the country. But unfortunately, the fast food industry in California is not following those rules and those laws that have been approved. And that's one of the reasons they're so against AB 257.
La industria de comida rápida necesita tener una ley que nos ampare y que ya evitemos todos estos problemas que actualmente estamos pasando dentro de la corporación de comida rápida.
Yeah, the fast food industry really needs to start enforcing laws that support the existing laws or pass legislation that supports the existing laws so that some of these problems can be addressed and hopefully be completely eliminated. My next question for Ingrid is, why do you think AB 257 is so important for workers to improve their industry? Entonces, Ingrid, cuéntame un poquito de por qué para ustedes es tan importante la ley AB 257, para qué es tan importante para los trabajadores, para mejorar la industria de la comida rápida.
Estamos hablando de algo que nos va a ayudar a poder hablar directamente con las corporaciones y con los representantes del Estado. Y esto nos va a permitir evitar todos estos problemas y estas condiciones en las cuales estamos trabajando hasta el día de hoy. Es por eso muy importante para nosotros que se apruebe la AB 257, para parar todos estos abusos y todos estos robos.
So AB 257, we're talking about something that will help us to be able to speak directly with the corporations that we're working for, because the corporations have an idea that all these problems, they have an idea about all these problems, but they're not doing anything to solve them. And on the contrary, they're taking more advantage of everyday workers like me.
La AB 257 es muy importante para nosotros los trabajadores de comida rápida. La verdad que es urgente para nosotros y la razón es porque las leyes actuales que están para los empleados del área de comida rápida no se están aplicando.
So AB 257 is not only important, it's urgent for us. And the reason is because the current laws that are in place, as I mentioned before, for fast food employees, they're not helping us. If there were laws that would help us, we would not be fighting now to pass AB 257. And if you finally comply with these laws, employers would be more aware of each one of the employees.
Lastimosamente, nosotros en la pandemia fuimos mal llamados trabajadores de comida rápida, pero no fuimos tratados como tales. Trabajamos los 7 días de la semana, todos los días del año, y fuimos los trabajadores que tuvimos que luchar hasta para que nos dieran una mascarilla, que era algo muy necesario en la pandemia. Nuestros empleadores, cuando alguien salía infectado de COVID, no querían ni desinfectar la tienda, y tuvimos que luchar para que todas estas cosas pasaran.
Look, during the pandemic, we were called frontline workers, right? But we weren't treated as frontline workers. You know, we worked 7 days a week, every day of the week, every day of the year. And, you know, we would ask for masks. Sometimes we wouldn't get them. Things weren't getting disinfected when workers came down with illnesses. So, you know, we weren't treated as frontline workers, right? And we obviously don't get things like health benefits, and there's no standard for that in our industry.
La industria de comida rápida fue la que más trabajó en pandemia, una de las que más trabajó. Nosotros nos cerramos, alimentamos a nuestras familias y lastimosamente fuimos los empleados más maltratados de esta industria.
Yeah, and you know, unfortunately, during the pandemic, we were some of the most abused workers, right? We worked long hours. We had to, you know, work in some pretty deplorable conditions. And so, yeah, that's what we're fighting.
Es por eso que necesitamos la AB 257, porque queremos que ya pare todo el abuso que hay dentro de las tiendas. Necesitamos un salario digno y necesitamos un seguro de salud.
And that's why we need AB 257, right? We need to stop wage theft. We need to stop working under these deplorable conditions, and we need healthcare. And AB 257 will help us get there.
Y sabemos que la solución es la ley, porque lastimosamente hasta el día de hoy, con las leyes que actualmente hay en California, no hemos logrado absolutamente nada.
And more importantly, you know, we need this law because with the laws that are currently on the books, we haven't been able to achieve, unfortunately, absolutely anything related to these issues. Bueno, pues muchas gracias, Ingrid, por estar aquí con nosotros y contarnos un poco de tu historia. ¿Tienes alguna otra cosa que les quiera decir a la gente que nos está escuchando?
Claro que sí. Nos gustaría mucho que nos apoyaran con sus grupos, con sus redes sociales a difundir la aprobación de la AB 257. Nosotros tenemos el día de mañana un día muy importante para esta aprobación de ley. Aquí nuestros senadores van a tener una decisión muy importante que afecta a 500,000 de trabajadores aquí en California y a nuestras familias. Y les pedimos, por favor, de verdad, encarecidamente, que nos apoyen, que publiquen en todos sus grupos, con sus redes sociales, la aprobación del AB 257.
So just finally to close, I'm here asking you that you can, through your groups, through your individual work, you can support us and spread support for AB 257 on your social media channels, on Twitter, on Facebook. We know that all of you can call your state senators and support our cause. You can use your social media networks to talk about it with your friends and your family. All these tools that you have at your fingertips can really help us here in California so that AB 257 can pass. It could have a positive effect for 500,000 workers in California and their families. And it would be an example for the rest of the states in the country to be closer to being able to have laws that are supportive of fast food workers. Pues muchas gracias, Ingrid, por estar aquí con nosotros hoy. Muchas gracias por contarnos un poco de tu historia y de la lucha.
Gracias.
Estamos contigo.
Gracias.
Well, thank you, Ingrid, for joining us tonight. And here at Our Revolution, we're with you, and we're doing all we can to get this going. And Aaron, who I'm going to kick it to over next, can tell you a little bit about that.
Gracias. Bye.
Gracias, Ingrid. Thank you, Paco. So now it is my pleasure to welcome the Service Employees International Union, SEIU, Local 1021, their president, Joseph Bryant. So Joseph's been at the forefront of big SEIU initiatives that help organize workers at scale in healthcare and the public sectors in California and beyond. Joseph was just elected an executive vice president as well of the International Union. So Joseph, congrats on the new position. Thanks a lot for being here with us tonight. Can you tell us a bit more about what's really going on in the Capitol there in California?
Sure, and thanks for that kind introduction, Aaron. And first off, if I can say, it's just really an honor to be here with our revolution, our progressive family from throughout the country. It's great seeing folks from all over the country. And I also do just have to give some love, and if we can show some love to our sisters, Mariah and Ingrid. They have, just been in this fight for so long. They've showed so much fortitude, so much courage. Without their leadership, we wouldn't be here where we're at, where we actually have a chance to pass legislation that gives the workers, the hundreds of thousands of workers in California, a voice at the table, which currently has been held against them. So if I appreciate everybody sending the emojis, and those two just deserve all the love and appreciation in the world. In terms of where we're at with the legislation, we actually are heading into the Senate Judiciary Committee tomorrow. So as folks here know well, it's a process to go through the state legislature to get something passed. We've gone through the Assembly, we've gone through the Senate Labor Committee, and tomorrow morning we're at the Senate Judiciary Committee, where we are trying to ensure that we continue to move this legislation forward. Again, this legislation does so much for so many workers. We're talking about, as you touched on, Aaron, over 500,000 workers throughout the state of California that would be impacted by this, to be able to negotiate or to be able to really have a table or have a seat at the table to be able to set wages, set standards, set benefits, which is absolutely needed. And when we're talking about these workers, 80% of these workers are workers of color. 2/3 of these workers are women at these fast food restaurants, and collectively 100% of them are in this fight together. And just some other facts that we know is that fast food workers in California are more than twice as likely to live in poverty than other workers in the state. And what this would do, again, is give that voice with that seat at the table to make sure that we can change the track and trajectory it's been on for fast food workers in the state of California.
So this is a pretty new concept, right? That can you tell us a little bit about, where this idea, right?
Yeah, Aaron, it's new, but it's novel, right? Imagine it having a world and having, a state where workers have a voice in regards to being able to advocate for themselves, to be able to advocate for their coworkers, just as Mariah and Ingrid have been doing. But we are taking it from the perspective that if we don't do anything, nothing's going to change, right? And we are asking of and really demanding of the state legislature that the folks who are in this industry, and I think Ingrid had talked about it, where not too long ago where, people were being touted as essential, being touted as heroes, which they absolutely are. They would risk their lives every single day through the pandemic to make sure that the basic services of food being provided was available. But then when it comes to, their wages and being able to support their families, to be able to have safe working conditions, it's forgotten in terms of the sacrifices that were made. So we hope this legislation codifies, again, that opportunity to be able to put themselves at the table, so the folks who actually make the businesses happen have a voice in how those businesses operate from the perspective that we're talking about.
That's right. We said a lot of things in 2020 that we wanted to leave behind, I guess, right? A lot of talking about heroes and talking about changes we were going to fight for in this country, right? And I think a lot of people tried to make that disappear into the past. So, of course, there's corporate opposition here. Like McDonald's never wants to have to negotiate with workers over terms and conditions of their time at work, right? So they're organized, they're turning out to public comment periods, putting pressure on senators and assembly members, right, in the Capitol, and muddying the waters in the way that we often see in these kinds of fights, pretending that this isn't just about hurting McDonald's, ability to, wield complete power in their workplace, but saying, oh, this is going to hurt people of color or small businesses, things like that. What's going on here besides just a dirty fight, and what can we do to fight back?
Sure. We're talking about multinational billion-dollar companies that will do, whatever it needs to do to try to protect its model. And we have seen a lot of, public comment from some of these, owners, franchise owners, coming up to speak. But here's the thing that what AB 257 does. It actually gives those franchise owners a voice too, which, simultaneously to the workers feeling the squeeze, the franchisees feel the squeeze from these large corporations, that set the rules. So it actually creates a space at the table for them also. So at the end of the day, we have to keep in mind these 500,000 workers that are, again, continuing. We're not past the pandemic at this point, right? They continue to risk their lives day in, day out to provide, again, these essential services so society can function, and they don't have a voice. So at the end of the day, I think we have to ground ourselves in the thinking that, we know that this has been exploitation of these workers for too long. It needs to stop. And the way that we feel it stops is by the passage of AB 257.
Well, we've got a lot of people. We've got almost 3,000 people on the phones right now. We've dialed out to a lot of folks in California. Everybody out there in California, we're dropping the link in the chat again, or you can go to find this online to sign this petition if you're not here in Zoom. But I know that link just got dropped here. Again, that is the petition in support of AB 257, the Fast Recovery Act. folks in the state Senate in California who are going to be at a hearing tomorrow need to hear your voice, need to hear support for this important bill that gives workers a say in the conditions of their employment, real workplace democracy. Joseph, any last words for us here?
I would just add, as you touched on, Aaron, everybody has a voice here. If you're in the state of California, please reach out to your local senator. Again, at this point in time, it is in the Senate. We are going to also need to make sure that we can get the governor's signature on it at the end of the day. So whatever way that you can support, sign the petition, post on social media, talk to your friends, talk to your coworkers. It impacts too many folks, and we have the opportunity here, and we can't let it pass. But we do need to pass AB 257. Thank you, Aaron.
Thanks a lot, Joseph. 500,000 workers, folks, that we can change their lives, working conditions, and their democracy at work. That doesn't come up every day. So take action. This is a great example of what we can fight for at the state level. And we know the obstacles in Congress to passing the PRO Act that would protect and empower workers at the federal level. You know, mainly I'm talking about the filibuster, right? But the administration does have the power the Biden administration, right, does have the power to make sure that companies doing business with the federal government are treating their workers with respect and dignity. And so that's what our next guest, Tanya Jackson, is working on at Maximus. So Maximus is a multi-billion-dollar company with some of the largest federal contracts. They run public services like Medicare and the Affordable Care Act. Tanya is a leader on the Maximus Worker Organizing Committee in Hattiesburg, Mississippi. She knows all about our healthcare system because she's helping people navigate it every day. But she and her coworkers can't afford to access healthcare for themselves or for their families. So that's even as she works a second job as a home healthcare aide. But Maximus workers are fighting to unionize with the Communication Workers of America, CWA, and they just went on strike recently at the company's largest 2 call centers in Louisiana and Mississippi. They're demanding healthcare and an end to poverty wages, again, as they do work for the federal government. So on the second day of that strike, they were joined by Bernie Sanders, by Congressman Andy Levin, by the Reverend William Barber, and other allies in this fight to build worker power. That must have been exciting. Tanya, can you join us now? It's so great to have you here with us. Tell us a little bit.
To be here.
Yeah, great. There you are. So yeah, tell us a bit about what's going on. What are you organizing around and what's happening at Maximus?
Okay, so my name is Tanya Jackson, and I'm from Hattiesburg, Mississippi, where I'm a Maximus, work for Maximus. Maximus is a multi-billion dollar company with some of the largest federal contracts to run this public services. I'm also a grandmother, a mother, and a hardworking woman. I work at both Maximus Call Center, and as you stated, I do part-time home health care aid. I love taking care of people and take pride in my work, helping Medicare beneficiaries understand their health insurance, which I've done for nearly 6 years. It can be tough at times. It takes a lot of knowledge about our healthcare system, but even so, basically, we only receive the bare minimum required by the law for my job as a federal contract worker. And on top of that, the healthcare plan is completely unaffordable with a $2,500 deductible for single people, and for a family, it's $5,000. In 2020, they changed our plan, and out-of-pocket expenses went through the roof. And this was during the pandemic. At the peak of the pandemic, Maximus raised our deductible to $4,500. But even this is still too much. We did fight and bring it back down to $2,500. So that was one of our first, when we first struck. Okay, it would take a whole month of wages for me to pay $2,500 deductible, which I'm still working on that deductible now. Okay, this is one of the many reasons my coworkers and I are organizing a union with CWA so that we can get pay, benefits, and respect that we deserve. If we made more, it would reduce racial and gender pay disparities in our community, help boost our local economy, and bring badly needed money to Mississippi. Maximus has made millions in profit. They have also received many awards for hiring us because we are a workforce made up of majority of women of color. But diversity reward awards don't protect us against Maximus when trying to prevent organizing for better wages. Maximus get praise for hiring us if we have disabilities, but their healthcare costs make it difficult to address our needs. How can this country hope to survive this pandemic when we who provide access to affordable care don't have affordable care ourselves? We help everyone access federal programs like Medicare, the CDC, InfoLine, and VA disability benefits. But every single day is a struggle for us on the front line. Everything is going up except our pay. Housing in Mississippi has increased over 12%. Gas has went up in Louisiana 65% and 64% in Louisiana and 65% in Mississippi. No one should have to live like this, especially when we play a major role in leading the country through the global pandemic. But we are treated like numbers and not human beings. We cannot raise our families on these low wages. The starting pay at every Maximus call center is about half of the living wage for a single parent with one child. How can the Maximus CEO, Bruce Coswell, make 208 times more than us when we struggle to feed our children? We went on strike in March and May, and last weekend we held a protest outside of Maximus headquarters in Tyson, Virginia, where we did have Representative Khanna was actually there with us supporting our struggle, and we are so thankful. We also participated in the Poor People's Campaign of Moral March in Washington on June the 18th. Around 40 of my coworkers from Mississippi, Louisiana, Texas, and Virginia made the trip to DC for the important rally. My coworkers and I will continue to keep lifting our voices in a way we can until Maximus agrees to meet us and stop the campaign against our union. I am here today on behalf of the Maximus Organizing Committee to say enough is enough. We will no longer allow Maximus to collect diversity awards when we struggle to survive. What we accept yesterday will not stand for today, and what we believe in today, we will make a reality tomorrow. I am so inspired by this movement and the commitment I've seen on this call to a better future for all working Americans. I promise to keep struggling and fighting alongside all of you until our demands for a just economy for all are met. If you want to support our campaign, please sign our petition to demand the company meet our worker organizing committee. As we say on our union meetings, when we move, they move, just like that.
So,
thank you.
Tanya, you have come to the right place to talk about problems in the American healthcare system. No group is fighting harder to change our healthcare system than the folks here at Our Revolution, right? And this is just one more bit of madness that our taxpayer dollars here are paying your CEO 208 times your pay, right? So that you can answer folks' calls, help them access their healthcare benefits, and not get any healthcare yourself. Like, does it get much crazier than that? I think the petition link is getting dropped in the chat right now, folks. Anybody in the country can sign that. This is a federal contract we're talking about here, not just a California law, right? Make your voice heard. Our taxpayer dollars are creating these conditions that Tanya is telling us about here. Now, can you tell us a little bit, Tanya, about how you came to be involved in a union drive? Like I was talking with Mariah earlier. I mean, it's a scary thing. I wish I had that opportunity, but at the same time, I can imagine how terrifying it must be to step out when you don't have a union in place, to put your head up and wait for the consequences, right? Talk to us about what that fight is like. You're brave.
Yeah, it's hard. I mean, you have people coming at you left and right. Basically, what we have to do, make sure is we're still on the job. So we have to make sure that, you know, we follow the rules and guidelines of the job. But at the same time, we have to talk, and it's kind of hard getting some people, but you know, you have to, every chance you get, you have to say, well, you know, if we had a union, well, you know, if we could organize, and you do have a label on you, but CWA, they stick behind us with our effort in organizing. So they make it worth, it'll be worth the risk. We actually started off at $9.05. They told us it would take an act of Congress to ever get that changed. So once we start organizing and talking with the union reps from CWA, they started to investigate. We actually went from $9.05 to $9.65, then up to $11.25, up to where we are now at $15. So the effort has been worth it. Like I said, we're gonna keep pushing and keep, even though we're struggling, we're gonna keep the movement going until we see the end result.
This is how we do it, right? You're not alone. You're doing this with your coworkers. You're doing this with your supporters like us, right?
Yes, sir.
And you're already seeing small victories.
Right.
That's great. Well, so what else? I see folks weighing in here. They're signing the petition, expressing their support. What else can we do around the country here?
Okay, just look, because another one of the contracts, like we had the CDC, when we got our raise, they didn't get their raise. One of the workers, we got to them, someone, you know, reached out to them. We got her started. So she wrote a letter basically to Bruce Coswell, and lo and behold, they're gonna go back from April up until today's date to pay them get them the $15. Helping out with the VES, that contract is basically heartbreaking, where once Maximum took over their contract, they basically, those workers' benefits got cut in half. So the more people that's out there that can research and look into it and sign that petition, the better off we'll be. A lot of, you know, word of mouth goes a long way.
All right, Tanya. Well, thanks so much for standing up. You're not alone. We've got your back. We'll be getting those signatures and figuring out how to keep supporting you going forward. Thanks a lot for being here with us tonight.
All right, you're more than welcome. Thank you.
All right. Well, now, last but by no means least, we have joining us U.S. Representative Ro Khanna coming on the call. I see you here, Representative. Ro has been a steadfast leader in the movement for economic justice and worker rights. He's representing California's 17th district in Congress. And on July 8th, he'll be holding a roundtable with fast food workers on Assembly Bill 257, the Fast Recovery Act we've been talking about. So he's here with us now to dig into this legislation and the strategy to build worker power, not only in California, but across the country. Ro, so good to see you. Can you tell us why, as a member of Congress, you're here supporting these workers and advocating around this state legislation? Can you hear me? I see you're still muted there, Congressman.
Aaron, thank you. Thank you to everyone participating. Tanya, thank you for your inspiring words. I just heard you. We need to do everything we can to support the fast food workers. Let me just break this down very simply. Those people working at Jack in the Box, at McDonald's, at Burger King, right now they have very little say on their hours. So you can have a franchisee say, we want you to work between 6 p.m. and midnight. And that may be time you need to be with your kids, or you may need to be able to have flexibility to drop your kids off to school, and you have no say over it, and you can lose your job. So the bill says that workers at these fast food industries should have say over their hours by creating this council. It says that they ought to be paid a living wage. In European countries, many times they're getting $20, $25, $30 for these jobs. Here, there is no bargaining power. This council would allow them to have a livable wage with benefits and have control over their hours, have control over the working conditions so that they're not mistreated, so that they aren't working in too much heat, so they have proper PPE and medical equipment. It is a bill that will make such a big difference. It would finally give workers in fast food industry the dignity that they deserve. The Assembly has passed it, and now it's stuck in the Senate. We need the governor to come out for it. And I'm doing a major rally on July 8th with fast food workers to call for it to pass the Senate, to call for the governor to sign it. There's no excuse for delay, especially right now where people are hurting. The prices are going up and wages aren't. This council would make a big difference in that. And then on the Maximus workers, I mean, they're doing more work than the regular federal employees. I was out marching with them in Virginia, but they are just asking for equal pay for equal work. Equal pay for equal work. How hard is that? Why can't they be paid the same thing as ordinary employees when they're doing the same work? Why can't they get the same health care? And I met someone who said it was really painful for her to miss a day of work. She's a single mother. She was out there in Virginia with us, and she was not getting paid, but she cares so much about justice, about fighting. But let's be clear, these workers are making a huge sacrifice. For a politician to show up to a rally, it's not a big deal. We do it. I don't have a boss telling me what time I have to be at work. But for workers, they're sacrificing a day of pay. They're risking, they're taking huge risks to be out there. So let's stand with them, our revolution, applaud their courage. And let's demand that we get the Assembly and State Senate in California to pass this bill, AB 297, and let's make sure the governor signs it and get the governor to come out for it. That's what we can do. This is about get people being paid a fair wage and being treated with the dignity they deserve.
Absolutely. So we've been passing a petition tonight, both for folks in California in support of AB 257. We know we've got a hearing in the Senate Judiciary Committee tomorrow in Sacramento, right? So we're trying to get all those folks here on this call, 3,000 folks on the phone, those of you here in Zoom, right? Sign onto that petition. That link I see is getting dropped again in the midst of folks giving you shout outs here.
Yeah, please do that. Please make sure, because that goes right to the Assembly, right? I mean, Aaron, I think it goes right to the Assembly members, right to the Senate, state senators. They need to hear from you. It needs to go to the governor. They need to know that this is something that people around the state, around the country are pushing for, that they're actually going to demand that we create this council and increase wages.
Yeah, this would be an incredible precedent to set there in California. And we're also passing a national petition here in support of the Maximus workers, right? And we know that's something we can take, that we can call on the president to take executive action around, right?
The president can do that. I mean, this is, when we're giving federal contracts, the taxpayer, that's all of our money. They should be paid a fair wage. They should have the same rights as the employees. I mean, that's where the president can do that tomorrow on Maximus. And the Governor Newsom can come out for this tomorrow in California. So our mobilization will make a big, big difference. I saw in the chat some comments about the defense budget. I mean, I do want to put this in. There were 58 members on the Armed Services Committee. I was the one no vote on a defense budget that is $30 billion more than the president wanted. It was 57-1. So while we're putting billions, almost $1 trillion on our defense budget, we don't have the resources to make sure that our workers, our contractors, and Maximus are paid a fair wage. Give me a break. Give me a break. And
seriously,
and we're making trillions of dollars in Silicon Valley, and you're telling me that when those tech workers stop at the Jack in the Box or McDonald's, that those folks serving them can't be paid a fair wage? I mean, this is basic values, basic dignity. And we can make a difference here. This is not a messaging thing. This bill, AB 257, this is passed the Assembly, it can pass the Senate, it can become law. It'll make a difference for fast food workers across the state. Maximus workers, we can change that tomorrow. Your activism on these issues, I'm for term limits on the Supreme Court. We could talk for hours on that. That's an uphill battle. I mean, we can push. This is something we can win. This is something our mobilized effort that we can win within a couple of weeks. So we need to win this campaign.
Yeah, and that's exactly what we've been trying to tell folks here tonight, right? This is a tough time for, folks are still reeling, of course, from the decisions last week. But this is something we can win that really makes a measurable difference in people's lives. 500,000 fast food workers in California, right? That we can make progress tomorrow. Now, speaking of the inflation of the military budget, which seems to only go up forever and ever, can you talk to us a little bit about inflation right now? This is something folks are feeling, eating into wage gains workers have made to some extent. And I know it's an issue you've been speaking about, Congressman.
Well, we got to do more things to lower the price. There are a lot of things we could do. One is preemptive buying. I called on the president to do this in a New York Times op-ed, which is buy the oil at the dip and then sell it back to the American public at a cheap price. They said, oh, I don't know, we can do it. I read an article 3 days ago, Warren Buffett, he says he's buying oil at a dip, but he's not selling it. He's making record profits on it. So why can't we buy oil at cheap prices and sell it to the American public? Second thing, tax these big oil companies. They're making record profits. Sheldon Whitehouse and I have a bill, windfall profits tax them and put a check in everyone's pocket, middle class, working class, $300 every 3 months. That'll at least pay for some of the cost of gas. Gas is $6.50 in my district. Third, stop the export of oil, which is what it was before 2015. And it's basically these oil companies are selling it all for extraordinary profits. That would have a price lowering effect. Of course, long term, we need massive investment in renewable energy so that you don't have the price volatility with big oil, and so we can save our planet. But we need to be a little bolder on the inflation agenda. People want us to do something about prices now, and the government has a lot of tools to be able to do that.
Absolutely. So yeah, this is certainly something we have to take head on, in a midterm election year like this. So glad to have you there, putting out progressive proposals. Folks, we want you to know, to the workers who've been here on the call with us tonight, our Revolution Nation has your back. Congressman Khanna is here to support you. We'll drop those 2 petitions one more time, or more, but we'll keep dropping those, and folks, keep signing on, share those out on social media, everything you can. Congressman Khanna, anything else you'd like to share with us here tonight?
Well, I just want to thank the workers for their stories, for their courage, for being there. You shouldn't have to fight for dignity. You're having to fight for fairness. You're saying you're having to fight to have a council that basically gives people a voice in their jobs, things we take for granted. No one says to Aaron, if you don't come in these hours every week, you're going to be fired. No one has to say to Aaron, you're going to be working all these hours and then you don't get a wage that can feed your family. No one says that to me. That's the condition we're treating people in the fast food industry. That's the condition of some of the Maximus workers. It's wrong. It's unjust. They need us. They need us, our revolution. We can win this. We can create this council for fast food workers in California. We can start doing it around the country. We can do it for workers in different sectors. It's as close as we're going to get in this country to sectoral bargaining, to raising wages. This is a fight we need to win. And if we can organize, we can win this. Let's get the petition to all the assembly members, to all the senators, to all the governors. Let's petition the president to take action on the executive action for the Maximus workers. Let's show them that when it comes to workers' rights, when it comes to workers' wages, working conditions, we can win that. That's the essence of our revolution. That was the essence of Bernie's campaign. The decimation of the middle class, lost 25% of wealth in this country since the 1980s. The bottom 50% of this country owns 2% of the wealth. The top 10% owns 72%. That's wrong. That's wrong. Things like this is what starts to fix it. So thank you to the workers. Thank you to everyone who tuned in, who called in. Thank you to those who are signing those petitions. Let's go win this campaign.
Thank you so much, Representative, for being here tonight and being here for fast food workers and other low-wage workers around this country. This is a fight for democracy and democracy in the workplace, and a democratic economy, right? So, pleasure to have you here. And
thank you, Aaron.
So, and to everybody here on the call, thank you for spending your Monday evening with us. I hope after seeing some of the work we're doing, we hope you'll sign up to become an official Our Revolution member. This is how we build our movement. This is how we shift power to the working class. We change politics, change our country, and change lives. But we need your help and support to do it. So if you're on the Zoom room, click on the link in the chat or just go to ourrev.us/2020 member. If you're on the phones, you can press *3. There's operators who will help you sign up. Financial support is important, but we also need your time. We have volunteers getting our message out to every corner of the country through our national phone bank force. And I will share that link in the chat as well. We're calling to grow support for our progressive policy solutions, to elect progressive allies, to replace the corporatist politicians that are in office in too many places up and down the ballot. So even if you've never done this before, if you haven't made calls to get out the vote or to get people to call their representatives for bills like AB 257, we've got a crew that has done this a lot. They'll be there every step of the way. We've got people at all levels, from those who signing up for the first time to those learning their way. It's not too hard. Sign up today for a shift. You can earn rewards too as you move up through the ranks. So that link is getting dropped in the chat. And tonight we're fighting for the resurgence of the labor movement, but you can also join us in working to bust big tech. We know a handful of companies, big tech companies, have too much power over our lives. And right now there's 2 major bills heading to the Senate, the US Senate, that actually have a chance to pass, believe it or not. The Open Apps Market Act and the American Innovation and Choice Act, which would help end big tech's self-dealing and cut down their monopoly power. I don't know if you saw, HBO's John Oliver featured these bills on his show last week, exposing how Amazon and Google stifle competition and saying these bills would crack the door open. That's what we're trying to do, crack the door open. But again, we can't do it alone. Dropping the link in the chat to call your senators, anybody in the country, put in a message to your 2 senators and tell them to pass these bills. So with that, I will ask our team to join me in answering the question that we ask at the end of every call. What happens when we organize? When we
win.
We win.
When we organize,
We win.
when we organize,
We
we
win.
win. Thank you, everybody. Good night.